To order, welcome to meeting number 30 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Today's meeting is taking place in public and in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021. Proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. The webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. Today, colleagues, a couple of things before we get started. The fourth draft of the Indigenous housing study is not yet available to us. It will be available to us in advance of Tuesday's meeting and will be the first item of business at Tuesday's meeting unless otherwise directed here today. And the other thing to tell you is that we have about 56 minutes for this meeting. Because we have to vacate for the cleaning protocols for the next meeting. But my hope is that we will be able to identify the subject of our next study and adopt some motions with respect to witness lists and the like so that we can be productive after next Tuesday, which will be at least dedicated in part to the URN study. So with that, we are in committee business, and so it's a bit of a blank page, but as I indicated, my hope is that we will be able to identify the subject of our next study and the parameters around it. So please use the raise. Oh, you're way ahead of me. Okay, please use the raise hand function and we'll work through the speakers list, beginning with Mr. Turnbull.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to be back, and I know we're slightly delayed getting started today due to PROC, which is the other committee that I'm on, but nonetheless, I want to thank Ms. Gizan for showing up at PROC and helping us to secure the time for this meeting today, because I'm glad to be moving forward with HUMA. On October 15th, 2020, I put a motion on notice to the committee. Most members would have received that. I know it's in our shared box for the committee, but I would like to move that motion now as the next order of business that we study. It's a topic that I feel very passionately about, and I've prepared a few remarks to put to the committee as to why I believe this should be the next order of business. So I move that the committee undertake a study on social innovation and social finance, outlining how these strategies can contribute to building a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable economy as we look towards economic recovery, and that this study shall take no less than 6 meetings. So that motion again was put on notice on October 15th, 2020, and it's been sitting there. I know we've prioritized other business up until now, but I do think this is an important topic. It's certainly something I feel extremely passionately about, and I would like to make a bit of a plea to the committee as to why I believe this is an important study to undertake as our next order of business. So I'll make those remarks now, if that's okay with the chair.
Yes, of course.
Thanks. So I would say, first and foremost, this study, I believe, is relevant because of the many ways that we've witnessed during COVID-19, the ways in which COVID-19, has exacerbated the inequities within our society and our economy. I've been studying those statistics quite a bit, and I've been using them for some of my interventions at PROC. But basically, the statistics show pretty significant inequities that for populations that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, and this includes immigrants, racialized Canadians, youth, seniors, women, low-wage workers, Indigenous people, those living in poverty, those living with a disability or with a mental illness, those who are members of the LGBTQ2S+ community, and many others. The list is extensive, but I think the underlying realization is that if you experience barriers to employment of any kind or a member of an equity-seeking group, that you felt the impacts of COVID-19 more than others, that the pandemic exacerbated the inequities that were already there prior. So if you were vulnerable, at risk, or marginalized in any way, you found yourself in a worsened predicament and life situation as a result of the pandemic. We also know that small businesses have been hit hard, and the number of new enterprises entering the market, like new startup businesses, was on average 16,500 per quarter, every quarter in Canada from 2015 up until the pandemic. And during the pandemic, that number has been very close to zero, or very low, approaching zero. And we know that many businesses, despite the many supports that our government has offered, will potentially not survive COVID-19. So although despite our best efforts. So social enterprises, the reason I bring this up is social enterprises are these unique business models that combine a social mission inside a business. They explicitly and intentionally
Point of
embed
order,
a
Mr.
social
Chair.
mission.
Yes, Ms.
We have a
Thatcher?
lot to get through today, and the meeting was cut short, so I would ask Mr. Turnbull to wrap up his remarks, please.
You have the floor, Mr. Turnbull. Go ahead.
Is there a time limit on my remarks for this? I don't mean to belabor the points, but I do have some other remarks that I've prepared. I just wasn't sure with whether Ms. Dancho, I'm a relatively new member of Parliament. I'm not sure whether there's a time limit. I totally respect that there's other members that want to speak, so I don't want to dominate the airwaves by any means. But I do have some remarks that I want to put forward in support of this motion. So I hope that's okay with Ms. Dancho. But Mr. Casey, or Chair, is that not, like, do I not have the ability to do that?
You absolutely do.
Okay,
It's just yeah. It's the point of order has not been upheld. You have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So what I was going to say is that if a normal business venture puts profit at the center of their business, a social enterprise puts people and the planet at the center or the core of their business model. You can think of a social entrepreneur as a gentleman, Fabrice Ville, from Quebec, who started Pour Tres Points, says, someone who borrows pragmatic notions from entrepreneurship in order to maximize its beneficial contributions on society. This is no charity, he says. It contributes to creating positive change in society. There are over 30,000 social enterprises that were documented across Canada from 2016 and 2017, with over 60% of those that purposely provide employment to marginalized or disadvantaged or vulnerable groups. So these are equity-seeking groups. So social enterprises are essentially on-ramps for social and economic inclusion for our most vulnerable segments of the population. So this is, I think, very important to realize for this committee, because I think it highlights how the social economy in Canada, and specifically in Quebec, I would say, which serves as an exemplar for all of the country, can really help us in COVID economic recovery. And the social economy has been 40 years in the making in Canada. The Community Economic Development Network has been around for that long. And many of us are probably actually aware of many social enterprises, agricultural cooperatives that started mostly in rural Canada. Credit unions are social enterprises. The Salvation Army thrift stores are social enterprises. There's whether you're a button factory in Dartmouth, a public market like Jean Talon in Montreal, a furniture reuse facility in Toronto like Furniture Bank, an Indigenous owned and operated geothermal energy installation company in Winnipeg, a cafe and catering business in the downtown east side of Vancouver. These are all businesses that have a social and often an environmental mission at the heart of their raison d'etre. Just a few quick stats, and then I'll move to sort of wrap up. Ms. Dancho, I'm sorry if I'm being too long, but or long-winded. In Ontario alone, based on 2016 statistics, there's over 10,000 social enterprises in operation, and 68% of those had a poverty reduction focus. 68% poverty reduction focus. In Manitoba, there were at least 500 social enterprises in 2016, employing 17,800 people. And Manitoba has its own social enterprise center called the Social Enterprise Manitoba on the main street in Winnipeg. The center is a long-standing partner within the Canadian Community Economic Development Network, which has operated for over 30 years to develop people-centered economy and social economy within Manitoba. The center in Winnipeg is a collaborative workspace that houses many social enterprises like Build Inc., Aki Energy, Purpose Construction, Local Investment Toward Employment, the Social Purchasing Portal, Vincent Design Inc., Youth Build, and others. And I want to speak specifically to Quebec and the importance that Quebec has. And I have the statistics for all of Canada, but I want to make an appeal to my colleague, Ms. Chabot, as to why I think that this study is really important. Because Quebec, I would submit to you, is probably the leader in this country in terms of the social economy. And there's 11,200 social enterprises employing 220,000 people, with sales revenue exceeding $47.8 billion in Quebec alone. Quebec's social economy has been invested in, and the Quebec government has done a great job, as well as the government of Canada, in setting up what we call social finance infrastructure within that province to help these social enterprises grow and scale and become investment ready and take on private investment. So just a couple of examples here. I'm sorry, my French, Ms. Chabot, is not great, but I will do my best. La Fiduciaire de Chantier in Quebec. This fund was started with investment from the government of Canada of 23.8 million, and then leveraged an additional investment by 2 labor solidarity funds and the government of Quebec. So in total, it became, just think about the way government investment can be leveraged with private investment to attract that private investment and then basically help grow social enterprises. These social enterprises that have been helped, there's over 190 of them that have been helped through this particular fund. Almost $439 million in economic activity created, and 3,497 jobs. And there's an even older fund in Quebec called RISC for short. Again, my pronunciation may be poor, but I will try. Réseau d'Investissement Social de Quebec, which has been around since 1997. And over the 22 years that fund has been around, it has invested in 926 projects and created over 11,000 jobs. And again, with a very small investment, this has leveraged private investment to help grow a social economy in Quebec that I think serves as an example for the rest of the country. Okay, so I'll start to wrap up now. So these are the reasons that I think this matters. So social enterprises are market-based solutions with a support system and some unique financing tools and mechanisms. These unique types of businesses can grow and become completely viable. Remember, as they grow, they create more social impact and they create more equity and inclusion. They also address a lot of the issues and challenges that we have that this committee looks at, and in a way, ESTC is responsible for. So I think this committee is the perfect committee to be doing this work. Again, one other thing that I think is important to keep in mind is that many are owned and operated by nonprofit and charitable organizations across Canada. Imagine Canada has been tracking statistics on the charitable organizations across the country, and for many years now has said earned revenue, which is what we're talking about. It's basically charities involved in commercial activity. that these enterprises that charities run are done for a social mission, but that they contribute revenue back to help support their charitable mission as an organization. And in a time when those organizations have been left vulnerable by this pandemic and not had the ability to fundraise, I think social enterprise represents an opportunity for them to stabilize and generate revenue back to source in the absence of some of their other revenue streams. The other thing I need to say is that social enterprises, again, are market-based solutions. So what this means is that they do not require public expenditure forever or in perpetuity. They only require an investment for a short period of time, perhaps 5 years of government support to really grow and scale. So I'll start to wrap up. I think what I've seen is that social enterprises can address food insecurity, the energy transition that we want to make. They can be engaged in early learning and childcare, and that's a really important, initiative that our government has identified. They often operate in waste reduction, management, and reuse of many of the products at the end of their life cycle. So they're also very engaged in that. Seniors care, reconciliation. There's quite a great organization called Raven Indigenous Capital Partners, which has developed a unique social finance tool called community-driven outcomes contracts. And their Indigenous-run company that is contracting to Aki Energy to essentially install, to have communities, First Nation and Indigenous communities, finance their own projects in their communities and have Indigenous owned, operated businesses or social enterprises do energy, geothermal installations in northern and remote communities. And I would just say that this, to me, is a model that we can use to solve many of these problems that we have and that I think our government has recognized as a priority. So I will leave it there, but I think I've made my case, and I hope the members of the committee will support this motion and undertake a study. I think it's really relevant for what we've experienced during COVID-19 and how we look to bring our economy back in a more inclusive, resilient, sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. The motion is in order. So the debate, the debate now is on the motion. Ms. Doncho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate Mr. Turnbull's remarks. They were about 20 minutes long, so I appreciate the in-depth research and arguments he has made in favor of his motion that he brought forward in October, I believe he mentioned. He did say, however, that my understanding is that motion was not unanimously agreed to. There was no vote on that. It was just sort of tabled. So my concern is that this committee has unanimously agreed to other motions and that those should take precedent, particularly given a number of those motions are focused on COVID-specific issues that are happening right now that need to be discussed and addressed. And while I'm happy to talk about social finance, I know the provincial government Manitoba has done good work with social impact bonds. Very happy to have that study at some point. But given that we've unanimously agreed to other motions, I think those should take precedent, particularly the ones, as I said, that are focusing on current COVID issues happening now to people right now. And so what I would say, given I think Mr. Turnbull has said, really made the 20-minute long argument for himself. I think we've heard that. So I would move to adjourn debate on his motion.
All right, I'm going to need some procedural advice on this. Madam Clerk, we have a motion to adjourn debate. I guess the first piece of advice I need is whether it's in order, and second, whether it's debatable.
It is a dilatory motion, and now it comes to a vote. No debate, just a vote.
So in order and not debatable.
Mhm.
All right. So I would ask you then to conduct a nominal vote, I guess, a vote by roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
And the motion is that the debate be now adjourned. Mr. Dong.
No.
Mr. Long.
No.
Mr. Turnbull.
No.
Mr. Vaughn.
No.
Mrs. Young.
No.
Mrs. Dancho.
Yes.
Mr. Carey.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
Mr. Viss.
Yes.
Madame Chabot. Madame Chabot.
Je me prononce sur quoi?
C'est une motion pour l'ajournement du débat.
Et l'ajournement, ça veut dire quoi?
C'est fini pour l'instant.
Well, it's finished for the time being. For today's session, yes, it's at the discretion of the committee. I'm in favor.
Ms. Gazan.
No.
Five yeas, 6 nays.
A point of order.
Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
I totally respect the Conservatives want to discuss their priorities, and I know other members of the committee have priorities as well. We all have seen the history of this committee together, and I would just ask as a point of order that we move to, well, not continuing the debate, have all the ideas tabled in and make decisions.
And I would submit that is out of order. We have a motion that is properly before the committee. If it's the will to take, we have to deal with that motion. So it's permissible in the debate of that motion to indicate that there's a preference to study something else first, and that would be a reason to defeat the motion. I guess what I would say is it would be in order to put forward other ideas, but at the end of this discussion, we're going to vote on this motion.
Fair enough.
Ms. Gazan.
That was actually my question, Mr. Chair, that, I mean, it's hard to vote when we haven't heard the other options. I think that's why I hesitated in my decision. So I think you've responded to my question. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes. So this is just to clarify, we're entering a debate on the Liberal motion, or are we to bring up other studies that we would like to propose?
The debate is on the motion.
On the motion, I would not want to lose my spot in bringing up what I think is would be a much better study. I believe the government would like to study what Mr. Turnbull has put forward, but I believe the opposition, if we are being fair to our role as the loyal opposition, would put forward something that would be more relevant for these times, such as something that would be impacted. I can think of the motion or the study on seniors. We've had numerous seniors unfortunately succumb to COVID, and there is some real concerns in our country, I believe, on the handling with seniors during this pandemic. And I would like to hear a little bit more about what that study would be like. And I would hope that opposition members from all parties would realize that the importance of this study on seniors versus some very well intended debate or discussions on social development that Ryan has put forward, but I believe it is much more valuable for our time to look at the one group that has been impacted the most during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Viss.
Oh, I guess I'll just congratulate Mr. Turnbull on probably making his longest speech as a parliamentarian. I wish he would show that type of passion in the House of Commons during the budget debate.
Chair, point of order.
Yes, Mr. Long.
That's not called for. That's.
Thought it was a good speech.
I'm not sure that's a point of order. In spite of the fact that I agree with it, I don't think it's a point of order. Mr. Doncho, Ms. Doncho, please.
I'm just, it just seems to be like Mr. Turnbull. I mean, he said that he was new to Parliament and wasn't sure how this works, but it seems like he knows how filibustering works quite well. So I guess I'm just wondering if we're planning to spend the last half an hour of this already cut down meeting that was canceled and then rescheduled, which messed up a lot of plans of my colleagues. We do have other things that are going on, and when this meeting was canceled, other plans were made. Then this meeting was rescheduled. Then we all met, and then we sat through 20 minutes of what seemed like a very good filibuster. I will give that to Mr. Turnbull. So I just wanted to air my frustration of having to be here and listen to this and deal with Mr. Turnbull's filibuster on this. So I would hope that we're going to wrap this up and we can vote on his motion. Again, I don't mind the idea of what he said. He made some good arguments. But again, I don't appreciate being called back here and then being lectured for 20 minutes by someone who clearly knows exactly what they're doing, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Chabot.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I find this so important. I had understood. Can you hear me properly? Yes, no problem. Okay. Well, I had understood that indeed, during this committee meeting, we would be deciding on the next study for our committee. I understand Mr. Turnbull, who presented his motion with good arguments. I was prepared to listen to him. But there's a question of procedure here. I understand that it was presented. That's fine. But when I came here for this, I referred to, or I got the impression that we'd already done the job. It's not an impression. I referred to our previous committee sessions, the minutes on, I'm not sure what date this was. I think February 2nd. We discussed how we felt things should unroll, and there was a debate between the priority on EI reform and Ms. Falk's, which was amended, I think. It was enriched about seniors. And if you look at the thread of our committee discussions, there was a debate on another gentleman's motion. Ms. Falk said herself, I'll be in favor of dedicating the next 5 meetings to the EI study if that means that we could then undertake the study on seniors shortly thereafter. And Mr. Chairman, you had concluded with that. So I was quite in favor of all this in that post-pandemic context, because we are in that context. We should dedicate our studies as we had discussed, and I had understood that it would be on seniors. That does not take away from the merits of what Mr. Turnbull presented, of course, because he raised good points. Even though we found his intervention a little long, perhaps, I would be of the opinion that the conclusions we reached at that time at the committee on the seniors study, which is quite a broad one and is related to what happened and the government's orientations as well. So I would maintain that orientation, that the next study be on seniors. Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Thank you, Chair. And I have to agree with my colleague, Madame Doncho. It's been a disillusioning for me in the House of Commons having to sit through filibusters and 2 meetings in a row, although I appreciate Mr. Turnbull's knowledge. I certainly support that study, but, I proposed, would like to propose an idea around a guaranteed livable basic income, something that certainly would help seniors in this country, something in response to the current PBO report that indicated that a guaranteed livable basic income could actually cut poverty rates at 50% at zero net cost, particularly because we know people are falling through the social safety net. As the pandemic goes on, I believe that this will be a life-saving measure. And I agree with members around the table who said we need to talk about things specific to the pandemic right now. I would argue that a guaranteed livable basic income, particularly in the juncture we find ourselves, I'd like that to be considered in addition to seniors. I think, I don't want to take too long. I know we have limited time, but the study on seniors is valuable. The social enterprise is certainly critical, particularly getting people back to work, but also guaranteed livable basic income. It's certainly of interest of the majority of Canadians, and I think it reflects the electorate and where the electorate is at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vaughan.
Thank you. I'm going to propose an amendment that I hope breaks the logjam. We have had a series and a pattern, and normally we do this in a subcommittee, but the Conservative leadership on this committee didn't want a subcommittee to straighten this out and bring proposals back to the committee, which is the easier way of doing it. I'll leave that there. For whatever reasons, the Conservatives didn't think those subcommittees meeting worked, and that's their prerogative, and I respect that. So here's my amendment. My amendment is to amend Mr. Turnbull's motion that the social finance study go first, that the NDP proposal on guaranteed basic income go second, that the Conservative motion on seniors go third, and that we split the time evenly with the remaining weeks between now and the end of the parliamentary session, which is in June, evenly between those 3 studies, starting at 3 weeks, 3 meetings, 3 meetings, and 3 meetings, and that way we all get a fair shot at this, reminding everyone that we just finished a block study and that we commit at the end of that amendment that the block as they propose the study would go in the 4th slot whenever we return. So the amendment would be that Mr. Turnbull's motion is amended to say that his study be 3 weeks, that it be followed by a study on guaranteed basic income as presented by Madame Gazan for 3 weeks, and that it be followed by a Conservative study on seniors for 3 weeks, and that the bloc then be in a position to choose which study it prioritizes in the next space out of fairness. And that's the amendment I propose to his proposed study.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. I would accept the amendment as being in order. It doesn't change what Mr. Turnbull has proposed, and simply proposes to add to it. So the debate now is on the amendment. Ms. Doncho.
Mr. Chair, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was just confused, Mr. Vaughan, and I appreciate your amendment, but you mentioned, or through you, Mr. Chair, but Mr. Vaughan mentioned that it was the Conservatives that made the meeting public, but my understanding it was the Liberals who made the meeting public. So I just think it's important that is corrected because it seems to be untrue. I don't think you're misleading folks on purpose, but
at the start, no, that's a point of order. At the start of this committee, before you joined it, there was a decision that was made across all parties to put this business in the public realm. We actually voted against it. It was the opposition that supported it.
We have done subcommittees in camera, though.
All right, and then you refused subcommittees going forward, and so we're now doing it in public.
With a month ago, we did a subcommittee.
That was the last one, and you've refused to participate in that process.
Point of order. Okay. Point of order, Chair.
Okay.
Point of order.
Can we have Mr. Vaughan and Ms. Doncho retreat to their corners, and we'll hear from Ms. Gazan.
Wow.
Yeah, that was actually my point of order.
I thought too, Mr. Vaughan.
Yeah. I just think we have a lot to cover in the meeting. And I'd like to get, I'm really actually happy with that amendment of 3, 3, and 3. I think it's collegial. It gets it certainly reflects everybody's research interest. Can we call the question? I don't know if it's too soon, but is it possible to call the question? I just want to make sure we get something done today.
We can call the question when the list of speakers is exhausted. Ms. Doncho has had the floor, and I'm going to cede the floor back to her in case she wasn't finished her submission.
No, I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Madame Chabot, please.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I understand the amendment. I never saw a motion in good standing on the question of the basic minimum income. Maybe I missed it somehow. Maybe that's what happened. But what I don't understand, I tried to look into this earlier, but even you, Mr. Vaughan, I would quote you, when we had a discussion about the Conservative motion, Ms. Fox's motion on seniors, I could even read it again. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee would undertake a study. This is for the benefit of those listening to us, on the repercussions of COVID-19. There were 6 meetings, indeed. And in our discussions, these dealt with 2 studies that should be a priority, EI and this one. And there had been a consensus here around the committee to say that, yes, employment insurance, and Mr. Vaughan, you also said that Ms. Falk was raising an important point, an important issue. I think it was possible by maintaining EI that we continue afterwards with the study on seniors. So if it's possible, I think we also have to look, maybe we talk about this less, but we have to look at the number of meetings we have left until the end of the session. I think we have 7 weeks left, if I'm not mistaken, if we meet twice a week, so 14 meetings. So, Mr. Chairman, I think we also have a study on Indigenous housing to complete. We have something on EI that has to be completed, as we did. And I think we have to meet with Minister Tassi, the Labour Minister, regarding the main estimates. It seems to me that was on our agenda. We were supposed to meet with her. So, to my opinion, we have time to do 1 study, maybe 2 short ones. And I'm saying this with all due respect for Mr. Turnbull. What he presented was very interesting. The whole issue of the social economy. It's not about the substance of what he said that I'm arguing, but I'm looking at the state of our debates and what we have left as time. It seems to me that we should prioritize these 2 studies, if we can do 2, perhaps. But having meetings on substantive issues like the social economy or seniors, that takes 2 or 3 meetings. The Bloc doesn't think it is entitled to another one before the end of the session. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes, Dr. Carey. Point of order, Mr. Carey?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
I was just wondering about the admissibility of the amendment. Mr. Turnbull's motion was quite specific, and Mr. Vaughan's amendment now is talking about future studies that have nothing to do with the amendment. I was wondering if you could clarify if it's actually in order.
I ruled it in order. So that would be subject to challenge if you wish. I guess my view is that it slightly amended the motion to the extent of taking it from 6 meetings to 3 and then added to it, but the entire motion is still intact other than the changing of 6 meetings to 3. So I had ruled it in order, and if the if the committee wishes to challenge that, that's for them, but I did rule on it. Mr. Viss.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the committee forgot the motion that we passed in support of the Rapid Housing Initiative. And so I'm wondering whether even Mr. Vaughan's motion could be in order, given that the committee already committed to giving me X amount of meetings to talk about the Rapid Housing Initiative meetings, which haven't taken place for a very long time. So I can't support Mr. Vaughan's motion, even if it is admissible, because even if it is allowed, based on the agreements this committee's made in the past. And I think for all of us on the call today, it would be very helpful if the analysts could bring us back to all those planning meetings where we agreed to certain studies that we haven't followed through on. I know after prorogation, things got a little mixed up there, but I do know that my housing motion was passed and those meetings were agreed to. And I believe that Mr. Vaughan will honor that commitment to those meetings as we agreed to prior. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Viss. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, Chair, and I just want to not raise it as a point of order, but just as a reference that Brad brought up what was passed. And as I'm relatively new to this committee, regardless of when the membership changes and I'm been to sit in this committee, whatever has been moved in the past and adopted for the next studies, should that not take precedence? If not, what's the point of actually voting and agreeing to something that may change in future committee meetings? So to ask you, Chair, to maybe report back to us on what has been approved by the committee in past meetings, and if there's other studies, be it NDP or the block or what have you, that has been agreed to, that should set the order of committee business.
Absolutely no problem to do that. Several motions have been adopted, and none of them have indicated that they're next on the list, and so that's the purpose of today's exercise. And what happened today was a motion that was on notice came forward, and with the inclusion that it be next. But you are correct that there are others that have been adopted, but no indication within those motions or otherwise that they would be next on the list. The way we tackled the business from the outset was that everyone who had a study that they thought would be of interest to the committee brought it forward, and it was agreed that there would be an agreement later with respect to order. That's the discussion that we're in now. Madame Chabot.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, I believe that we had reached an agreement. I don't know if it was a formal decision, but we had discussions, not at subcommittee, it was at the whole committee, and everybody agreed that after the study on EI, we would start a study on seniors. So I believe that we should check that, because if we start all over again, it doesn't mean that the next study will not be the one of Mr. Turnbull or another one, but perhaps I was naive to think that today would be simple.
Ms. Guzan.
Sorry, Chair, did you call me? Sorry.
Yep,
Am
you
I
have the
next?
floor.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you first. Just in keeping peace with the committee, I think it's actually a rather good idea if we have the clerk come back with the studies that we've put forward to date, so that people that are new on the committee can see what has been discussed, what was specifically said and agreed upon. I know that I have my priorities, but I also respect democracy. And so I think just, for the good of the committee and relationships here, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, it's no problem to provide to the committee all of the motions that have been put on notice, all of the motions that have been passed. That information is readily available. Mr. Vaughan. Lower the boom there, Mr.
I will
Vaughan,
lower the
please.
boom.
Yeah.
I will lower the boom. If we had an established schedule, we wouldn't be debating what's next. That's the whole point of today's meeting. That's what's on the agenda for today's meeting, is to decide what study is next. And
Point of order.
Committees are.
Just a second, Mr. Vaughan. Go ahead, Mr. Viss.
Well, I believe my study is still ongoing and we haven't completed it yet. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I was getting to that.
Go ahead, Mr. Vaughan.
And so we are sequencing the next few meetings. That's the prerogative of committees, and it's in the hands of the committee to make decisions. And events change. We've seen it across a lot of other committees in the last few days and weeks in this new year alone, let alone over my life in Parliament, where issues emerge and committees make decisions on what to study next. That's why we don't do 15 studies in a row. We do them in small batches. And when COVID occurred, we completely changed everything, and we didn't get to earn. We were started to earn in February, but we didn't start again until September. Proroguing helped us do that, quite frankly. But the issue is this: is that Mr. Viss is correct. We have agreed to return to RHI where there are gaps in the schedule and when thresholds are possible. And we know, and we can certainly see that from the EARN study, and we can certainly see that in the way in which translations and study reports come back vis-a-vis EI study, that there will be gaps. And I think it be rightfully so when we encounter one of those gaps, to work together to bring forward the appropriate officials to complete that. But the RHA study has no date, no sequence, and no timetable. We are setting date, timetable, and study subjects now. And so the motion in front of us is as presented. Mr. Turnbull has moved his motion. I have moved amendments to accommodate the other parties and their priorities. The chair has made a ruling that the amendment is in order. I think if we dispense with that motion, we can then move on to making sure we accommodate Mr. Viss's motion, which I think is an excellent motion. I've always agreed. In fact, I appeared as a witness on that study because I was so enthusiastic to talk about the program. So there will be gaps, and we have a backup plan to fill those gaps on short notice by bringing in experts from CMHC and from the department to fulfill the goals that Mr. Viss has proposed. So I would suggest we get to the vote and move from there.
Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to clarify what exactly is going on here. As you know, I'm not a regular at this committee, but from what I glean, there was an agreed upon schedule. Mr. Turnbull brought forward his motion, and then Mr. Vaughan modified that so that we can add 3 other studies to it. I'm just a little bit confused here. And excuse me, but before we vote on anything, would you be so kind as to clarify what exactly is going on here?
Sure. There was no agreed upon schedule. There were several motions that were passed to adopt studies without any indication of priority to be assigned to each. And this meeting is to determine the priority of future business, including the studies that have been adopted. So you're partially right, but the purpose of this meeting is to plan our next steps. Ms. Doncho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I was just listening to Madame Chabot and Madame Gazan, and of course our members talking about seniors. And it sounds like we could actually have quite a robust study on seniors. I think Madame Gazan can bring in plenty of excellent witnesses to talk about UBI and the benefits therein to seniors. Like we can easily incorporate that. Puis avec Madame Chabot, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup que.
And Ms. Chabot, I believe that we can talk a lot. Perhaps there are things that the Bloc would like. The interpreter cannot hear the member.
Ms. Doncho, just a second.
Point of order.
Mr. Tucker, go ahead.
Chair.
Mr. Tucker? On a point of order?
I think Mr. Tucker's having some volume issues.
Yeah.
No, I think we're back on. Just a point of order. I think the translation got garbled up there, and
Okay.
I apologize.
I'll just wrap up in
I'm
English
studying
then.
French, but I'm studying, but it's been taking
Yeah, I'm sure yours
much,
is better
much
than
tougher.
mine.
Well, no, it isn't. It is not as good as yours, and
Okay.
obviously, anyhow, I
Anyway.
digress. But
Okay, my point was I think Madame
Ms.
Chabot.
Donjo, if you could just raise your mic a little bit, that might help. I just got a
Sure.
note to that effect. Okay.
Yeah,
way to
I
go.
think my point was just listening to Madame Chabot and Madame Gazan. I think that the senior study that was already proposed, amended, and unanimously agreed by this committee to study seniors in COVID, given, as we well know, that they're the hardest hit group in Canada and are worthy of a study and priority. I think that may be difficult for the Liberal government to recognize, but I do think that seniors are worthy of a priority in this committee. And I think that what the Bloc has said and the NDP has said would suit well in that study and would encompass the things that we're looking to do. And further, again, just to reiterate, seniors have suffered more than any other demographic in this country in the last year. So for the HUMA committee, not to study seniors in the worst year on record for seniors, I think would be a huge oversight and quite disappointing. So I just would like the committee to consider that in the vote. Thank you.
Madame Chabot.
I also believe that we had decided that the Bloc suggested tabled other motions, but today I didn't table any other motion, so we did a study on EI. And I had decided that the next study would be the study on seniors, so on the motion of the Conservative Party. Then if we have time for another study, well, we can choose another study. But now to have a motion that says that we would go ahead with Mr. Turnbull's motion and then the study on seniors, I'm sure that this amendment is acceptable, but I'm not sure we have time.
Tucker, please.
yes, thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, what we're discussing right now is not clear to me. So we had the amendment, or sorry, the motion that was read by Ryan and then amended, and we never voted. We're at the stage that we're voting on the amendment on the motion forwarded by Ryan. Could I hear that motion read together, because it's kind of put together on the fly? I'd like to hear it presented, if that's possible. It's been a long day, and we had committee and off committee, and I'm apologize for not making notes as quick as I possible with the motion that was on there. But if Ryan could read his motion, because it sounds like it was produced prior to this meeting, and then have Adam's amendment on that might clarify things.
Okay, the motion put forward by Mr. Turnbull. Mr. Turnbull, do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Okay, would you care to provide that for Mr. Tucker, and then we'll have Mr. Vaughan recite the amendment to the motion. Go ahead, Mr.
Sure.
Turnbull.
Yep, I move that as the next order of business, the committee undertake a study on social innovation and social finance, outlining how these strategies can contribute to building a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable economy as we look towards economic recovery, and that this study shall take no less than 6 meetings. And that was provided on October 15th, 2020, and it is in the shared drive. Just so everyone's aware, it was on notice for quite a long time. It's been there. So
just a point of order, Ryan. What is the name of the file on the shared drive, if you don't mind? I couldn't find it, or I didn't see it before, and I apologize if it's there.
I don't know. I have it printed out here. It's that I printed it off. I can't remember the name of the file because I'm not looking at it right now. But it's one of the notice of motions, and it would have my name on it, Ryan Turnbull, okay. I think. Yeah.
Mr. Vaughan, could you recite the amendment for clarity, please?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I took it off. My amendment was to amend Mr. Ryan's motion to read that the study on social finance be first, and that the time be amended to 3 weeks. That it be followed by the motion presented by Madame Gazan, that be 3 weeks, and that study be followed by Madame Falk's motion on seniors. That be 3 weeks, and that the block. We agree that the block be in the position to choose the fourth study after that, if the block, the fourth study after that.
Do you mean weeks or meetings?
Meetings. We have a very strong tradition of receiving written submissions that allow us to create reports. It's not just about live testimony. We also have a robust capacity to receive reports and information from stakeholders who are very, very engaged in all these issues.
All right. Okay, Mr. Tucker, I think that's what you were looking for. Any further submissions before I move to the next person on the speakers list? No, thank you. Mr. Viss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to pull up some notes here from our digital binder, and it's okay, from our meeting on October 28th. Committee proceeded to the consideration of matters related to committee business. A point of order was raised by Jenny Kwan related to a possible breach of privilege. The chair ruled that the point of order did not touch on a matter of privilege. Oh, I remember that meeting. It was pretty intense. The question, shall the decision of the chair be sustained, was put, and the decision was sustained on the following division. That pursuant, okay, your subcommittee met on October 21st, 2020 to consider the business of the committee and agreed to make the following recommendations. That pursuant to standing order 1082, the committee study on urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing be composed of 6 meetings. That prioritized witness lists for the study on urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing be sent to the clerk of the committee by Friday, October 30th, 2020. That the parliamentary budget officer be invited. That pursuant to the order of reference on Wednesday, September 30, the committee conduct a study on the main estimates. That the study include, but not limited to, the following witnesses. We won't go into that. That the subcommittee met towards the end of the study on rural, urban, and northern Indigenous housing to provide recommendations on the prioritization of the following studies. That pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee conduct an ongoing study on the Rapid Housing Initiative as the program is rolled out over the next 6 months to Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. That all aspects of the proposed program be examined with specific focus paid to the number and location of units acquired. I won't go on, but I will say at the end of it, it says here that the executive officer of the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation appear for 2 hours at a 7th meeting to testify that the initial meeting be held no later than Saturday, October 31st, 2020, and the final meeting be held by Friday, April 30th, 2021. So what we already agreed to, Mr. Chair, has not been followed. And for the Liberals to come forward with another motion when we had a really intense meeting in committee business on on October 28th, that we're not following what we already went through is wrong. And then after that, it said that pursuant to the study, the committee undertake a study on the review of the employment insurance and workforce, which we're doing, and that. So yeah, what the committee agreed to do on rapid housing hasn't been followed, and I don't think that's fair. So maybe I could go on about this, but it's just this is just not right. We worked pretty well on this committee, and generally it's been pretty good. But for the Liberals to try and throw our schedule off, and frankly to Rosemary, who's not here today, who's been really amenable to a lot of different studies, not to give her a chance to discuss seniors because the Liberals are trying to hide that seniors age 65 to 75 didn't get the OAS is wrong. So I think the clerks need to come back to us, Mr. Chair, and give us a review of everything we've agreed to in committee business, all of the motions passed, so we can make an informed decision. I thought we were coming here in good faith for a quick meeting today, and the Liberals started to filibust because they didn't want to deal with the business before us, probably because they knew we were up for a conservative study on seniors and they didn't want to have to address the points in the budget made. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Colleagues, we've reached the appointed hour, but we require the unanimous consent, or we require the consent of the committee to adjourn. Is it the will of the committee to adjourn and to continue these discussions on Tuesday? If it isn't, we will continue. I don't know, do we take a standing vote here? I can't read the room and I don't want to pretend to do so.
Point of order. Sorry, Chair, very quickly. So we'll get those documents before the next meeting. I just think it'd be good if we came on the same page.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
They're readily available.
Thank you.
Okay. Is it the will of the committee to adjourn or to continue?
Adjourn.
No adjournment.
Do we have consensus to adjourn?
No.
Sorry, did someone say no?
No. Let's call the question.
No, we're not going to call the question until we exhaust the speakers list. Okay, actually, I believe we have Mr. Mr. Tucker.
No, I believe Shabbat was up next. Adam Shabbat, I believe you're up.
Madame Shabbat.
Mr. Chair, it's not the first time we ask you to return all the motions. But that's fine if we send them back once again. I would invite all my colleagues to read the verbatim on the 2nd of February meeting. It was less than 6 months ago where we did exactly what we're doing now. And there had been a consensus. So we can reshuffle this, we can discuss this over and over. But we will have to meet in the context of another meeting. And I would like to remind you that sometimes we schedule a meeting for a study and sometimes it takes longer because there are other things happening. We receive bills and we have to welcome ministers. It's very important. So we should be able to review the time that we have got left. And please don't forget that meeting on the 2nd of February.
I believe we saw consensus to adjourn. Then there was a suggestion that we should call the question. Mr. Tucker wants to speak. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, I move to adjourn, Chair. But we were past the time that was allotted for this meeting. We came here in good faith and got kind of jumped on by questionable motives by some members. So I move that we adjourn.
All right. Do we have consensus to adjourn?
Yep. No.
We do not have consensus to adjourn. Mr. Viss.
Well, if we're not going to adjourn, maybe the analysts can just get back to us right now. I'm sure they've been pulling up old committee meetings, notices of meetings and stuff, and maybe they can just give us an update for the time being. So I'd like to hear from the analysts, please, on all of the studies agreed to right now, if that's okay.
Ms. Gazan.
I feel like I've learned about filibusters today over and over. I think, the majority of the committee wants to adjourn. We can meet the next time with documentation. I think it's critical that we're on the same page. I'm here to get things done for my riding as an elected official. I want to see the housing study finished. The more we banter about all of this stuff, the longer we wait on the results of the EARN study, something that I think is critical. I have my agenda too. I'm willing to put my motion forward next. I didn't get an opportunity to read my motion in this meeting. There seems to be some sort of consensus from Madame Dancho talking about, guaranteed income seniors and what was proposed by Mr. Turnbull as well. I agree that the study on seniors is a critical one as well. So I think that's where I'm at with it.
Point of order, Mr.
Point of order, Chair.
Okay, a point of order from Mr. Carey and then from Mr. Tucker. Mr. Carey, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Chair, we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. I don't believe you need consensus. It's a dilatory motion. I think we just go to an immediate vote.
I think
He's
you're
right.
right. I think you're right. Okay, I don't see consensus to adjourn, so can we have a standing vote, Madam Clerk, on the motion to adjourn the meeting?
Mr. Dong,
No.
Mr. Long,
No.
Mr. Turnbull,
No.
Mr. Vaughn,
No.
Mrs. Young,
No.
Ms. Dancho,
Yes.
Mr. Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Viss,
Yes.
Madame Chabot,
Pardon. Oui.
Ms. Gazan.
Yes.
6
you.
yeas, 5 nays.
Thank you, colleagues. We're adjourned. We'll undoubtedly continue this discussion on Tuesday. Have a great evening. Thank you.